Look, I'm going to be completely straight with you right now. If the Blue Jays don't land at least one of these massive names this offseason, we're looking at another year of mediocrity. And honestly, I don't think the fan base can handle that anymore. But here's the thing that's got me fired up today. Everything is starting to fall into place in ways we couldn't have predicted even 2 weeks ago. Robert Murray just dropped a bombshell report that has me more optimistic than I've been in months. This guy doesn't miss. He's one of the most connected insiders in baseball, and when he says something, you better believe there's substance behind it. He's saying the Blue Jays are in on Tucker, they're in on Bregman, they're in on Bichette, and here's the kicker. He actually thinks this is the offseason where Toronto finally lands one of the big fish. Not maybe, not possibly, but he legitimately believes it's happening. Now let me break down what he said because there's layers to this. First off, he confirms what we've been suspecting. Bichette should be the priority. He's younger, they know what they have in him, and he's their guy. But if that doesn't work out, Bregman becomes the fallback. That's huge because it tells us the front office has actual contingency plans. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket and hoping for the best. They're being strategic, they're being smart, and most importantly, they're being aggressive. The fact that Murray is saying this feels like the offseason they land a big name in free agency means he's hearing things. Reporters like him don't just throw statements like that out there without having conversations with people in the know. Someone in that organization, or multiple people around the league, are telling him the Blue Jays are serious and they're going to get someone. That's not speculation, that's insider information leaking out. What really gets me excited is the Tucker situation specifically. We're now entering late December, almost January, and there hasn't been a massive contract signed yet. Remember a few weeks back when everyone was saying Tucker would get over $400 million? I never bought that. The market just isn't there for it. And now we're seeing projections coming in that make way more sense and frankly make a Toronto deal way more realistic. Spotrac just released their updated projection for Tucker, and they're saying 10 years, $384 million with a $38.4 million AAV. That's after they crunched all the numbers, looked at comparable contracts, adjusted for age, and ran their regression models. This isn't some random guess. This is data-driven projection. And you know what? I would do that deal in a heartbeat. The Blue Jays should sprint to make that offer if it gets Tucker in a Toronto uniform. Think about what you're getting. One of the elite outfielders in baseball, consistent production year after year, still young enough to be in his prime for most of that contract. $38 million per year sounds like a lot until you realize what the alternative is. The alternative is running back the same roster that disappointed us last year, watching another team celebrate while we're on the outside looking in. No thank you. Here's where it gets even better. If Tucker's contract comes in around that 350 to 380 range, like these projections suggest, that opens the door for a second major move. You could potentially land Tucker and Bregman. You could get Tucker and bring back Bichette. The financial flexibility exists if Tucker's number isn't pushing $400 million or beyond. Remember what Keegan Matheson said on my show a few weeks ago? He didn't think Tucker would get $400 million. He thought it would be somewhere in the 350s, maybe even lower. At the time, some people thought that was wishful thinking, but look where we are now. The longer this drags on without a signing, the more it confirms that teams aren't willing to go to that level. Tucker might be waiting for an offer that isn't coming, and eventually he's going to have to accept market value. The timing of all this matters too. We're approaching January, which is exactly when Sheviki predicted Tucker's contract would get done. Not in December during the winter meetings, but after the new year when teams have had time to assess their situations and make final decisions. That timeline is playing out exactly as expected, and the Blue Jays are still right there in the mix. Now let's talk about the Yankees situation, because this is crucial. Chris Kirschner just reported that Yankees fans are getting anxious, and more importantly, the Yankees are comfortable running back a similar roster with their number one target being Cody Bellinger. Read between the lines there. If the Yankees' top priority is Bellinger, that means they're out on Tucker. That's one less mega-market team bidding against Toronto. The Dodgers have been quiet on the Tucker front. The Red Sox seem focused elsewhere. Who's left that can realistically outbid the Blue Jays if they go all in? Nobody. Everything is lining up perfectly, and I mean that. The market is developing exactly how Toronto needs it to develop. Tucker's price is coming down to realistic levels. Competing teams are focusing on other players. The Blue Jays have the financial capability and the organizational need. This is the moment where a franchise makes a statement, where they show the fan base and the players in that clubhouse that they're serious about winning. I want to address something else that's been floating around. Scott Mitchell, the TSN reporter who covers the Blue Jays, sent out some cryptic tweets with the shush emoji. People are speculating, some think he was hacked, others think he was trolling. But you don't see that kind of thing from a credible reporter unless something is percolating. I'm not saying it's a done deal. I'm not even saying it's close, but there's smoke there, and we all know what smoke usually means. The other piece of this puzzle that doesn't get talked about enough is what happens if they don't land one of these guys. Robert Murray said it feels like they're going to land someone, but what if they don't? The fan base will revolt. The credibility of the front office will be shot. You can't spend years talking about windows and competing and then refuse to make the moves necessary to actually compete. This isn't just about adding talent, it's about the entire direction of the franchise. But I genuinely believe it's going to happen. When you look at all the factors, the market conditions, the competing teams' priorities, Toronto's financial situation, the desperation to win now while they still have Guerrero and potentially Bichette, everything points toward the Blue Jays finally making that massive splash. Whether it's Tucker, whether it's Bregman plus someone else, whether it's bringing back Bichette,